The Knicks played their best effort that they have all season against the Celtics, and yet it still was not enough. They dropped 119 to 117. We're going to get into a late game collapse and why they still just cannot get over the hump against one of the NBA's best teams and the defending champs.
You are Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
All right, welcome in to Locked On Knicks, your daily New York Knicks podcast. I'm Alex Wolf. I'm editor-in-chief of Knicks site The Strickland, which you can find at thestrick.land, and he's Gavin Shaw, your favorite play-by-play broadcaster, and the Saturday co-host of the Locked On NBA podcast. And we want to thank you all for making Locked On Knicks your first listen today and every day, whether you're checking us out on your favorite podcast platform or taking in the sights and sounds on YouTube. We appreciate you making us part of your daily routine. Make sure you hit the auto download function on your favorite podcast app or the notification bell on YouTube so you never miss an episode. And on today's episode, we're going to be talking about the Knicks losing 119 to 117 to the Boston Celtics. Stop me if you've heard this one before. The Knicks lose to the Celtics, but played as tight as they have all season against the Celtics and even looked like they were going to pull this one out down the stretch. We're going to talk about some of the miscues that they made and some of the strategic gaffes that led to them ultimately losing this game. We're going to talk about the overall play of guys and just the difference between guys like Karl-Anthony Towns and Kristaps Porzingis and how they both had amazing nights, and yet one guy got there a lot easier than the other thanks to game plan. And we'll just talk about, can this team even compete with Boston in a 7-game playoff series based off what we've seen during the regular season this year? It seems like, and I mean, maybe this is presumptuous, that they are on a collision course for the second round. If the Knicks can make it through the first round, whoever they end up drawing there. And if that's the case, then things might be a little ugly in that round. But anyway, before we get into all that, I just wanted to remind you all that your favorite podcast now has a newsletter introducing the Locked On Knicks Daily newsletter, one stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right to your inbox. Sign up for free now at lockedondaily.com. That's lockedondaily.com, and start your day with the all new free Locked On Knicks newsletter. And, you know, if just supporting us isn't enough, let me tell you also, if you subscribe to the Locked On Knicks podcast newsletter for expert analysis, insider insights, and all the playoff action delivered straight to your inbox for free, you also get a chance to win a $2,500 Best Buy gift card, a $300 Game Time gift card, and a $200 Fanatics gift card. You just have to subscribe sometime between April 7th, which was couple days ago, and April 30th to be automatically entered to win. So definitely get your name on that list, and potentially that Best Buy gift card is huge. So get after that. Anyway, Gavin, the Knicks lose 119 to 117. They're up 3 points with a handful of seconds left. They let Boston bring it down. They defend okay on the possession leading up to the point where Tatum gets it near the perimeter. OG, for whatever reason, up 3 is defending against the drive way too much. Tatum, of course, steps back and goes for a 3, which he's been hitting all second half, and just bangs one right in his eye. The Knicks then turn around. They can't even get the ball inbounded to Jalen Brunson or Karl-Anthony Towns or anyone that you would potentially want shooting the final shot. It ends up in Josh Hart's hands with 3 seconds to go. He takes a couple dribbles, I won't call it a heave, but not the cleanest 3-pointer you'd ever want to see in your life, which is usually the ones that Josh makes, but he misses this one. And then the Knicks just in overtime cannot figure out a way to close this one out, end up losing 119 to 117. But if you take away the 3-pointer that Brunson made when it didn't matter at all in the final second of the game, they effectively ended up going from tied to losing this one by 5 points by the time that all was said and done. Pretty ugly game, ugly finish, and doesn't get any easier getting torched by Porzingis and being reminded of the guy that the Knicks traded away all those years ago now, as he goes for, what was his final total? 34 points he ended up with. Not fantastic, but just all in all, a tough one. Tough pill to swallow when it looked like the Knicks were finally going to get over the hump against this Celtics team.
Yeah, and look, it is one of those games you walk away from, and you can certainly talk yourself into being optimistic and saying, all right, this is the best they played them all year. I think the Knicks did find some level of answers for questions that the Celtics have posed to them all season that the Knicks were not close to having answers for. So there were a lot of encouraging elements to this game, and we are going to get into them hopefully in a good amount of depth. But I walk away from this one kind of feeling the same way I have after so many of these games against great teams, where I put this loss on Tom Thibodeau, and Tom Thibodeau, some of the whole team, like he did some good stuff in this game. Like he found ways at times to weaponize Josh Hart off the ball. Like at times he showed like a better scheme instead of just dropping every time versus Jason Tatum. Like the Knicks did incorporate some switching. They did incorporate some hedging and recovering. And they mixed up their coverages, but the Kristaps Porzingis 3-pointer barrage we got first in the second quarter, then in the third quarter, that allowed Boston to get back into this game and take a 7-point lead in the third. Like, to me, maybe a smarter basketball mind can tell me in the comments why I'm dead wrong and why I'm an idiot and why Tom Thibodeau knows what he's doing and why we should both just shut up about this. But like, I can't comprehend why you are not just switching it every time. Like the Tatum Porzingis pick and pop, pick and roll, whichever one it is, usually pick and pop, is about the deadliest two-man combo in basketball. And how most teams respond is they simply switch it. And that is not a great solution, because it means Jason Tatum attacking a big, typically Karl-Anthony Towns, which, you know what, Towns at times, like including the last game against the Celtics, including that late possession until he decided to hit him on the arm. Cat usually holds up pretty well in switch against Jason Tatum. Or it could mean Kristaps Porzingis attacking OG Anunoby and Mikal Bridges. He has a height advantage, but you know what? With how incredibly efficient Boston's offense is, Porzingis attacking one of those two guys, like that is a fantastic outcome. And certainly both of those scenarios, even if you're risking Cat getting into some foul trouble with Tatum going at him, are far better than Porzingis, especially once he found a rhythm, Alex, shooting open three after open three. The Knicks made an adjustment in the fourth quarter. It was too little too late. KP hit one more, of course, in the final minute that functionally won the game for Boston after Jalen Brunson could not come up with an answer on the other end in overtime. That killed the Knicks, and I continue to think playing Josh Hart with the starters down the stretch of this game kills the Knicks. Not only do they play Josh Hart, they play Josh Hart 48 minutes more than anyone else on this team in a game where Brunson allegedly was on a minutes restriction, plays 38, and Mikal allegedly on a minutes was not on a minutes restriction, but he also plays 38 because he was in foul trouble. I'll leave it to you because they don't want to go too long, but I continue to see a lot of examples of them essentially playing 4-on-5, and that's not to say that Josh didn't do some really good things in this game, but my God, you cannot beat the Celtics team with him on the floor, and Tom Thibodeau I don't think that's gotten through his head yet.
Yeah, I'll go back to the Porzingis thing, and I made a version of this analogy when we were talking before the show, but I think I've perfected it now. Tibbs, when things are happening like what was happening with Porzingis heating up in this game, it's like he sees he's in his house, he lights a candle or something and has a match, and then the match doesn't go out, and then it lights a piece of paper on fire, and then he sits there and just kind of stares at it and goes, well, maybe that'll just go out.
Are you saying he's the dog, house is burning, reading the paper, everything is fine meme, basically?
Eventually, by the time it gets there. I mean, he sits there, except for he sees the flame start and doesn't do anything to stop it. You know, it's just like he sees it and then he goes, well, maybe that'll just go out on its own. And then all of a sudden the piece of paper spreads to, you know, it catches a little bit of his wall on fire. And he goes, well, I don't think that'll keep burning. And then it starts spreading up to his ceiling. And then he goes, oh, well, all right, fine. Let me go to the kitchen and at least get a cup of water and like see if I can put this out. Now it's like it's always too late. You know, like the house is already burned down by the time that he's ready to throw the first cup of water on it. And it's just like, you know, yes, kudos to them that they did finally make the adjustments down the stretch in the fourth quarter, but it was like it put them in the same position that they're always in, where it's like other coaches can call a timely timeout when a guy starts getting hot, you know, identify the problem immediately and then go, okay, guys, we're prepared for this. We knew the Porzingis and Tatum were going to start pick and popping. Let's start switching it. Let's see how it goes. You know, hey, Kat, if you end up with a foul, whatever, like Mitch actually played quite well in this game, I think. Like if the alternative was like, okay, we get a few extra minutes of Mitch, like he dominated them in the first half, like on the glass, and was a big contributing factor to them getting up in the second quarter. So like, fine, like take that chance and see if you can make that happen. Like it felt too, I don't even know if I would call it safe. It's like, again, it's playing with fire. It's not safe at all, but like it's just like the safe alternative to be like, well, just leave the big open. Like when is that, when does the big ever make a three? And it always feels very antiquated whenever the Knicks play one of these stretch bigs. And we see them get bailed out sometimes, right? Like we've seen them get destroyed by like Miles Turner, for example, in the past, where he just gets super hot from three and the Knicks just kind of let him shoot it. And in some of those games, especially in seasons where Turner wasn't shooting as well, I've been like, well, I guess I sort of get it. He's like a 33% 3-point shooter or whatever. Like you take your chances, I guess. Like if that's the shot they can generate and he gets hot and you lose, then so be it. But against a guy like Porzingis, who like has just over the course of his career, he's not like rookie or second year Porzingis with the Knicks anymore, where like the shooting is theoretical or like he gets hot one game and cold the next. Like he's kind of just one of the most consistent 3-point shooters in the league at this point. Like, and one of the most consistent forces shooting the ball. And also is, unlike Cat, which will be something maybe we get into in the next segment when we talk about how the two of them were deployed against each other in this game and like how different it was. But like Porzingis will see a smaller guy on him and just go, okay, and just shoot it. If you're not crowding him in some way and threatening to maybe take the ball away at his waist level as he's catching the pass or whatever. So how they don't learn that until, the last minute is, it boggles my mind. I don't know. Yeah, that's pretty much it. We see it every single game. Every single time the Knicks face the Celtics, it goes the exact same way. And, they were just able to sort of figure it out, and their offense didn't totally crap the bed in this one. So like, they were able to keep up for a while, but it's the same procedural mistakes that happen all the time against this team. And it's like, it just comes down to, Tibbs has to have them better equipped to go against these teams, especially when they go to things that are their bread and butter and they might be near undefendable. Like you said, one of the most deadly two-man combinations in the game right now, but you got to at least have a plan to try to stop it rather than just letting it happen. And that's my biggest problem with how things went ultimately in that third quarter. But we could talk more about it in a sec. Maybe talk about, again, Karl-Anthony Towns matched Porzingis 34 points, but had to work a lot harder to get to it. Thanks to the Knicks, again, not really looking to get him involved, not looking to exploit the fact that he's just as good of a shooter as Porzingis and probably could have had the same type of impact had they looked to do that. So we'll talk about that in just a moment, plus more from this game. Maybe find some positives at some point too to talk through, because there were a few. So we'll get into that in just a sec on Locked On Knicks.
First, we want to tell you about our friends over at BetterHelp. The show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Taking care of your mental health is just as important as taking care of your physical health. But traditional in-person therapy can be expensive, often ranging from $100 to $250 per session. That's where BetterHelp comes in with online therapy. You get quality care at a price that makes sense, saving you time and money. Therapy isn't just for life's toughest moments. It can help with everyday stress, learning how to set boundaries, or developing positive coping skills. Having access to support when you need it can make a big difference. Your well-being is worth it. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. All right, we are back to talk through another painful loss against the Boston Celtics, 119 to 117. Again, you can just, before we start zooming in, I'll add one more big picture coda on this. You can certainly talk yourself into the idea again, like that this is a step in the right direction, that this game ultimately didn't matter for either team in terms of the standings. Well, Indiana keeps winning, so technically the Knicks do need to win one more game. Indiana does need to lose one more game. So maybe that's not a sure thing in some people's minds. We'll see. But the Knicks pretty much have that 3 seed locked up. But it just sort of feels like I think you and I kind of walked out of this with the same takeaway, that like Tom Thibodeau simply has his preferences in this matchup, and they are not going to shift dramatically. And some people might say, you know what, he's saving it all for the series against them. And I'm sure there will be some wrinkles. We see it every year where Tibbs does keep some wrinkles in reserve. I think the core philosophy of having Hart out there is just not going to work against this team. And frankly, not that this was a subpar version of Boston. Obviously they got a great shooting game from Porzingis after a cold start. They shot as a team extremely well from three, but Boston does not have Al Horford in this game, who I think maybe along with Drew Holiday is pretty clearly their best option guarding Karl-Anthony Towns. Boston, because they didn't have Horford, was limited in how often they could go to those double big lineups. That when they started doing that about 30 games into the season, completely, I don't want to say turned around their season, because they've been obviously a very good team from the get-go, but those have pretty consistently been their best lineups of late. And the Knicks, in a couple of opportunities now going against it, have just found no functional offense when the Celtics have their double bigs in. The Knicks were up 52-41 in the second quarter. Boston went double bigs. It was an 11-2 run from there. Boston, I don't think it was double bigs to start the third, but then in the third, they got on a 22-8 run. And if Boston goes double big, I don't see how you play Josh Hart. But look, I think we've just seen enough from Tom Thibodeau. I mean, he never wanted to close with, or rarely wanted to close with Brunson quickly. Almost never wanted to close with them in the playoffs. He just doesn't and isn't okay with having two small guards out there, no matter what. No matter what the lineup data says, no matter how obvious it is to me that they just need more space to operate against this Boston team. And again, those are not the only issues, but at some point against Boston, it becomes a math problem, and it is just impossible for the Knicks to shoot as many threes as Boston or make as many threes as Boston when Josh Hart is on the floor.
Yeah, and it's, at a certain point too, it just becomes, you have to be able to just defend them better then, and then also still be able to take enough threes to make it work. And with Hart, it's his confidence is just gone from three. And I mean, it didn't help. Look, I don't want to put it all on Hart, because OG shot 0-5 from three, finally kind of came back to earth in this game a bit. I don't think that he was getting bad looks necessarily. I think he was just missing them in this game. I think it was just finally he was due for one of these, and he didn't get that supplementary, getting to the free throw line as much as he has been lately to make up for a bad day from the 3-point line. And then Mikal Bridges, only 2 of 6. Also, obviously, I mean, he had the play that makes you just want to beat your own head in at the end of the game, where they actually managed to get the ball in, they get it to Cat, and then Cat goes to pass it to Mikal, and he just did the wide receiver that starts running with the ball for the touchdown before he's even caught it. Did one of those deals where you could tell that he already kind of had his eye on putting the ball on the floor and trying to get inside to potentially get a bucket for the Knicks there, and he just fumbles it out of bounds, whatever. So it's not like it was all on Hart, but to your point, at least if you have Deuce out there, he gives you the spacing that you're looking for. And then, I think that they've proven well enough, Deuce plays most of his minutes with Cam Payne, who's not exactly a huge player in his own right, and I know he's a little more defensively cagey than Brunson, Cam Payne that is, but that sort of is proof positive that Deuce spends most of his minutes with Cam Payne, and those lineups are largely a positive. So, and the lineup data all says that when he's out there with Brunson, that it's a good idea and that it works. And it's whether you take out Mikal or whether you take out Hart, either one of those two, it's Deuce in for either one of those two guys, the Knicks get demonstrably better as a team if you look at the lineup data, and it's not a small sample. So, but then, going down the stretch of a game, it would track to think well, you probably want Mikal out there because he can shoot the three at his best. And Josh Hart he can't right now. He's just so reluctant to shoot a three anymore that it's just, you feel unless that switch flips like it did in the playoffs last year, it's just hard to buy into it right now that he's suddenly going to be able to just start making 3-pointers at a certain point this season. Yeah, I'll pass it to you to see where you want to go next. I mean, maybe we could take our final break here and then come back in, talk about the Towns versus Porzingis thing. Towns only gets 3-pointers up for this whole game. I thought he had a phenomenal game otherwise. But just not a lot of effort spent in trying to find 3-pointers for him. I thought Brunson looked as good as you could possibly ask him to in his second game back from coming back from the ankle injury. So he was pretty fantastic. So we got a lot more to talk about. Let's just take our final little break here, and then we'll come back in and finish talking through this game. But first, we want to let you know about our friends over at Robinhood Gold. And with Robinhood Gold, you can now enjoy the VIP treatment, receiving a 3% IRA match on retirement contributions. The privileges of the very privileged are no longer exclusive. With Robinhood Gold, your annual IRA contributions are boosted by 3%, plus you also get 4% APY on your cash and non-retirement accounts. That's over 8 times the national savings average. The perks of the high net worth are now available for any net worth. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. To receive your 3% boost on annual IRA contributions, sign up at robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risks, rate subject to change. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold at $5 a month for 1 year from first match. Must keep funds in IRA 4 or 5 years. Go to robinhood.com/boost. Over 8 times the national average savings account interest rate. Claim is based on data from the FDIC as of November 18, 2024. Robinhood Financial LLC, member SIPC. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC. All right, we're back in to finish talking through this game. Final segment here, and Gavin, we've sort of talked about it a little bit, but I want to just briefly touch on it. We were talking about it pre-show too. Karl-Anthony Towns, Kristaps Porzingis matching 34 points each, and yet it was just a lot harder for Cat to ultimately get those points because of how both guys were deployed. Porzingis shoots 11 of 19 overall, but 8 of 13 from 3. 13 of his 19 attempts come from 3-point range in this game. Karl-Anthony Towns, 14 of 21, just 1 of 3 from 3. All of his attempts from 3 felt almost like heat checks to me. Like they just felt extremely off the cuff. Like they were kind of just like he got the ball and it certainly was designed for him, but he just happened to see like, oh, the defense is sagging off me a little bit. Let me give this a shot. A couple of them were a little on the longer side, but just like not ones that were really like in rhythm, in my opinion, and not ones that really seemed like they were planned by the offense. And so it just begs the question, like we saw, you were talking about the Tatum and Porzingis pick and roll and how deadly it can be. We saw so much earlier this season how the pick and roll with Brunson and Cat, or even like running like the double pick and roll with with Cat and then Hart, and having Hart crash towards the hoop, Cat pop back out to the 3-point line. Like that was bread and butter stuff for the Knicks earlier this season. And it's stuff that we almost never see anymore. And it just boggles the mind that they've gone away from something that was working so well for them early in the season when they were like a top offense with OG and McHale on the corners, and those guys having the ability to then put the ball on the floor, drive in, or take a 3 if they were open. And then you have Cat consistently up above the break, like ready to take threes. It seems like they've just completely gone away from that. And I know I praised in the last episode, Cat like kind of switching into like punish guys on the inside mode. And that was mostly against the Hawks. So that was like 2 games ago now, or I guess 3 games if you count the one that they just played. But I appreciated that, and I appreciate him going for that, because I do think he's going to have to go to that more in the playoffs. But you push back, we're like, yeah, but he's not taking enough threes. And I was like, yeah, I agree with that. I just like seeing him go inside. But this game, it just felt like I don't know if it was instilled in him by the game plan or what, but it was like the whole goal for him in this game was like, well, people were saying that I keep getting bullied by like Tatum or Drew Holiday or whoever in these games against Boston. So I'm going to show you guys today. I'm just going to go in there and I'm going to like muscle up on them. And he did, and it was great, but it didn't add a ton to the overall offense. And I think we saw in like the third quarter where once that kind of went away a bit, and then it just sort of there wasn't anything left there where Cat was like in rhythm shooting 3. And it just like, I don't know. I can't help but like go back in my mind to like the Minnesota game earlier this year or something, where it was like the Knicks were just so actively looking to get him going from 3. And I wondered to myself, like, what happened to that? Like, why do they not do that in games where it makes sense now? And you feel like the offense against the smaller guys was probably going to be there no matter what this game, because he was motivated and he was working with it. So once you get that established, maybe try putting him on the perimeter, have him shoot some threes when guys are planning so much for him to go inside. It's just the way he was deployed for as great of a game as he had. And like, I can't take anything away from him in this game. I think he played one of his best complete games of the season, like on both ends, honestly, especially once he started getting trusted to defend down the stretch. But like, it's just tough to like look at this and be like, man, I think this is the best game that Cat could have possibly had this game.
Yeah, a lot of thoughts on all of this. I do think some of it is Boston's defense and the fact that, like, I mean, it's what if the Knicks had switched everything on Kristaps Porzingis, he probably only takes, I don't know, like 4 threes. Like, and here's to your point, some of it is just it's the part that is not on Tom Thibodeau is that it is just about the players to some degree. Well, okay, let me caveat this. Kristaps Porzingis like catches and he's thinking shoot. Karl-Anthony Towns catches and he is usually not thinking shoot unless it clicks to him. He's like, oh wait, the coach has said I should take more threes. Like it is just first instinct for KP. It is not first instinct for Cat. And that is an issue across the board for the Knicks compared to the Celtics. For the Celtics, 3-point shooting is a religion. You get a fairly good look. It's going up unless a teammate has a better look. For the Knicks, it is like kind of wait, kind of see. Am I in rhythm? Are my feet set? Do I have enough room? And like OG was like a demerit to him. Like he was back to hesitating. He didn't have that confidence. He didn't have that swagger. And tonight was like such a significant test because he's had all these games where he's gotten into a great rhythm, driving the ball against terrible defenses. And then you see the confidence from him from 3. Like he shot 0 for 5. Like I don't think his shot disappeared overnight. I think he wasn't all that confident. Mikal Bridges missed 4 open to wide open looks from 3, including airballing 1. It was either in the fourth quarter or OT. Like Hart. All of his threes were open. He missed all 4 of them. Brunson was fantastic. He got up 12. He made 5. Cat, to your point, only shoots 3. Gets one great one early in the game. Like the one he made was a trailer in rhythm 3. That's a good shot. It would be nice for the Knicks again to always seek that out. I would have to watch back to say that there were opportunities that were missed on that front because I'm not really sure, but some of it is just Boston's defense. Some of it is Cat's mentality. Some of it is just a culture that the Celtics preach that and make it a must, and the Knicks do not. I will push back a little bit on Cat having a great two-way game. As I went through my notes, I almost want to apologize to Tibbs a little bit on the Kristaps Porzingis front. There were still plays where they blitzed or they didn't switch, and like Porzingis was just like he had that late roll where he just walked down to the rim because 2 stayed with Jason Tatum, and I was like, you got to switch it because if not, that's a layup. But a lot of his threes in the third quarter were because of Cat's negligence. Like I'll take you through 3 plays. He had like a typical gross one that he's had at various times this year where he felt like he was pushed going for an offensive rebound. So he kind of exaggerates it and falls out of bounds. The Celtics run ahead 5-on-4. Cat, it's hard to tell if he's jogging or if he's just slow, but he gets back extremely slowly. He sees Kristaps Porzingis with the ball wide open on the wing, decides it's too late to get over there and make any kind of effort, and he just jogs into the basketball while KP kind of pump fakes, realizes no one's coming, and then just drains the 3. So that was terrible on Cat. It gave the Celtics their first lead since the opening minutes. Literally the next possession, he is inexplicably helping on Jaylen Brown, who was playing through a knee injury. It was terrible in this game. There was no need to help on Jaylen Brown. He had already picked up his dribble. Cat is helping off him, and he just throws it to KP. It's not like cross court. It is literally a 10-foot pass, 1 pass away. KP hits the wing 3. And then another one where they run a Tatum KP off-ball screening action. And unless OG Anunoby was supposed to switch this, it's on Cat to just like stick with Porzingis and both go with Tatum. And then Porzingis hits his third 3 in just over 4 minutes to start the third quarter. And it wasn't all Cat. Like Mitchell Robinson had 2 brain farts too on Kristaps Porzingis in the second quarter. But I put it more on Cat because Mitch played great defense outside of that. So you know what? Partially on Tibbs, not entirely on Tibbs. Some of it was just Cat brain farts. Not to talk for too long, so I'll limit this. Maybe I'll end up doing a bonus episode in this one. His individual offense, scoring the basketball in this game, was brilliant. He was toasting Jaylen Brown. He was toasting Jason Tatum, posting up over and over again. I thought it was strange that the Celtics didn't send more help off of Josh Hart at times, but give Cat credit. He took full advantage. He had a in the context of him not shooting a lot of threes, he had about as dominant of an offensive game as he could have. I think it'll be a lot harder for him when Al Horford's back for the Celtics.
Yeah, I think one last thing that I'll throw in on Cat and the not getting up as many threes. I saw a number of times in this game where he had a smaller defender on him, which is something that the Knicks were clearly seeking out, although they were mostly trying to seek it out on the inside. But you know, they were seeking out getting a smaller guy on him. And look, you know, maybe you say Tatum, you know, not small enough for this to count. But one of the things that makes Porzingis so deadly from three is that he's had this innate understanding for years that he is 7 feet tall, that his release point is higher than most players can reach their hand without exaggeratingly jumping and potentially putting themselves in position to foul him. And so he's kind of understood for years, like, I could just get my shot off over almost anybody that's not like a pure 7-footer. Cat just never seems to have that same mentality. And I think that was also part of what was a little frustrating to me in this game. Like, if he ends up with Drew Holiday on him on the perimeter, I understand the Cat has sort of a motion where his elbow sort of protrudes an extra bit, when he's kind of going up to line up his shot. Maybe he's worried about getting called for some form of a foul of, bringing his elbow up or something like a flagrant or whatever. But I think that he can, within reason, get into his shooting motion. And if a guy's in his space, he's in his space. Like, whether the guy's face ends up where your arm is going to end up while you're in a shooting motion, that's on that player. That's not on you if like your elbow connects with him or something. So I don't understand why he doesn't just utilize the fact that he's 7 feet tall more on those perimeter shots and potentially bait some of these guys that give him fits a little bit out there into, potential foul scenarios and potential foul trouble. So maybe something to look for in the future. I don't know, but it seemed like he accomplished what he wanted to as far as his mission in this one, which was just to prove that he could score on these guys on the inside. Maybe the next time he tries to crack the code of how to get more points on the outside. But other than that, I mean, just a fantastic game from Jalen Brunson, who we haven't really shouted out yet, but best game since he's been back. Obviously, only a couple games, so small sample size alert. But 27 points, 10 to 21 shooting, 5 of 12 from three. Only got to the free throw line 2 times, so I guess that's maybe the one thing that was a little out of character for him. But 10 assists also. I thought that he did really, really well, especially down the stretch of this game of managing the game, getting other guys involved to a degree, but also just taking matters into his own hands and getting inside, going to his trademark middies and hitting those when the Knicks needed them. Just an overall good game for Brunson. I don't know how much there is to say about it, but they certainly got everything they needed out of him. I think they also got everything they needed out of Cat, to be honest. I just wish it could have been even better, but I think ultimately this one kind of just fell on like a lot of the guys that have been making threes and have been making shots lately, other than those two guys, fell a little short of what was needed in this game. And, shooting 29% from three against the Celtics and still only losing by 2 points. Maybe that's your silver lining in this one. But, you could also look at it as like they out rebounded them 52 to 38 and couldn't turn that into a win either. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know how much more I have to add on this one. If I'm being completely honest, it's just kind of a bummer of a game.
Yeah, we can wrap it up. I think I'm probably going to do a little empty the notebook episode because I thought there were like a lot of just small fun little battles in this game, and I like some of the stuff the Knicks did, and maybe we didn't fully capture that in this one, but it does. I think we're both kind of on the same page, so we both come out of this feeling bummed. I'll get into it in more depth tomorrow. I will just end by shouting out OG Anunoby's defensive effort on Jason Tatum. Like, again, far from a perfect game for him. Like, I was really bummed out that he wasn't quite as aggressive going to the rim. He wasn't quite as confident in his jump shot, but my goodness, like, and it is a testament to how extraordinarily talented Jason Tatum is that I say in a game where he scored an efficient 32 points, had 7 rebounds and 5 assists, that I felt like OG Anunoby locked him up. Like the Celtics had a 4-minute stretch in the fourth quarter where they scored just 2 points, and like OG was like just a constant like common denominator in that, keeping the ball away from Tatum, keeping Tatum in front, making him take really tough shots when Tatum did try to go at him. And the bulk of Tatum's success was when OG was out of the game or when Mikal Bridges was on him. And I don't know what it is about Mikal Bridges, but Tatum is just a bull who sees red when he's on him, and he just hits like impossible shot after impossible shot. Reggie Miller, I think, compared it to taking candy from a baby at one point, which was given who Reggie Miller is, that was a real low point. So the Knicks lose, a heartbreaker. We'll get into more details in a little bonus episode. Kuka Heel coming on tomorrow, Locked on Pistons host, the Knicks' probable first round opponent. So we thought we'd preview that Thursday game and we'd maybe get into a little series preview. So look out for that. But until next time, he is Alex Wolf. I am Gavin Shaw. We will talk to you very, very soon here on Locked on Knicks. And we want to remind you one final time about our news newsletter giveaway. The New York Knicks are ready for playoff basketball, and Locked On Knicks has you covered every step of the way. Subscribe to the Locked On Knicks podcast for expert analysis, insider insights, and all the playoff action delivered straight to your inbox for free. Plus, as a subscriber, you'll be entered to win one of these three amazing prizes: a $2,500 Best Buy gift card, a $300 Game Time gift card, and a $200 for next gift card. It's easy and free to enter. All you have to do is subscribe to our newsletter between April 7th, 2025 and April 30th, 2025 to be automatically entered to win. Again, that's over at LockedOnDaily.com. Don't miss a moment of their championship run. Join the Locked On Knicks newsletter today and experience the playoffs like never before. Until next time, we'll talk to you soon on Locked On Knicks.